Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari John Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya, Astoro Shishya Mata's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya, Astoro Shishya Mata's Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Anantikoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki. Naam Acharya Salidas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Siva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Jamana Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrindaki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. So thank you for coming this morning. And I really appreciate your presence. We're going to be talking a little bit about Srila Prabhupada. I don't have the book, but I'm just going to read off. I have some pages printed, and I'll read off my computer on the Transcendental Diary, Volume 1. We'll discuss the introduction a little bit and some pastimes, and you can raise questions also on Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll be reading the introduction from the Transcendental Diary that is compiled by Hari Sori Prabhu, which is from 16th November 1975 to around March 1977, that he had that opportunity or the great fortune to travel with Srila Prabhupada. And during that period, he recorded everything. Although it was, his service with Srila Prabhupada, initially, when he was requested to serve, it was a little short. It was just for a few days, 2 or 3 days. But he took this as a unique opportunity, in being in the association of a pure devotee. And it's interesting when you're in the presence of pure devotees. That's another, definition of a pure. What's your definition of a pure devotee? Yeah. Can you give me that microphone? A person who's free from material contamination and is attached to Krishna. His affection for Krishna. Yeah, those are good answers. Anybody else?
Someone who's completely surrendered to Krishna.
Somebody is completely surrendered to Krishna. Give her the mic again. She has to say to her again, because the people hear it on the...
I said that someone who is free from material contamination and who is attached to Krishna and has affection for Krishna.
Okay. Yeah. So good. So yeah. Okay. So somebody is surrendered, somebody's... So are you in that category? Really not. Why not? Gurangi? Yeah. Well, there's different definitions, but your answer is correct. Somebody is surrendered, somebody is attached to Krishna, and you're also attached to Krishna. So anybody who is attached to Krishna and follow the orders of the spiritual master is a pure devotee, according to Prabhupada. At least that's one definition. And it's a more applicable definition for us. That is a pure devotee. So if you're following the principles and we strictly following the principles, and we attach to Krishna like that by following the principles. So like this, he took this opportunity, and he got a blank notebook, And he would write all Prabhupada's exchanges he had and experiences, those exchanges that he had with Prabhupada. So then, I'll just read this part. At the same time, I was very aware of Prabhupada's words, especially his conversations on the daily morning walks and with visitors who were being recorded on a tape, and I considered this to be another kind of diary. So the way, Harisori, when you read his books, you find he's quoting chunks of what was in the conversations. You can read on Vedabase and the conversations. So he took chunks of it also. But he made a nice point that it was relevant. What was the reason? Yeah. This book represents an expanded form of my personal written diary, coupled with snippets and segments of the electronically recorded one. Added to these are selections of His Divine Grace correspondence. He was trying to give more relevance, as he puts it in a later part of the introduction. He says, the Bhaktivedanta Archives is gradually making complete versions of all Prabhupada's conversations, letters and lectures available both in tape and book form. This being the case, one might question the need for the inclusion of extracts from these sources here. The answer is simple. Within these pages, the reader will find the circumstances surrounding particular events, and thus the words of Srila Prabhupada will take on fresh and deeper relevance. So it become more relevant. So therefore, sometimes when you read the diary, you'll be reading chunks of a class or a conversation that Prabhupada had, or a morning walk discussion in his diary. So he said that his purpose was, to write this diary was twofold. One was to glorify Srila Prabhupada, and the other was to give the devotees an opportunity to associate with Srila Prabhupada as he did. So that was two good reasons that he was compiling this diary. And any devotees who have diaries, even Tamal Krishna Maharaj has, disciples have compiled diaries about him. And if you have an opportunity, try to read them. It's very interesting, the way he dealt with matters. Now, maybe we could speak some of those things also. Yeah. So, reading on his introduction, I readily admit to my limitations in making presentation. I'm neither a writer nor a devotee. The only qualification I can claim is to say that I was there. Somehow the other, Krishna gave me sufficient presence of mind to record the events, and thus with whatever little humility I possess, I now present this material for the pleasure and edification of all devotees of Srila Prabhupada. And he says, in the, I'll just paraphrase it, that he was saying that how he was fortunate enough to see firsthand how Prabhupada corrected, how he dealt with difficult situations, corrections, disputes, accepting advice, chastisement. These are all things that sometimes are not so pleasurable, especially if somebody is chastising you. Isn't it? You like to be chastised, no? Really? But like one devotee was being chastised by Prabhupada, and then when the prasadam came late, Navayogendra Swami, and they would tremble actually. They would tremble. And then he told Prabhupada, how should we respond? We get afraid. And Prabhupada said, you should be happy. He said you should be happy. And because somebody cares. So it's a difficult way of looking at it. Somebody cares, and he gave the example of like the dogs. There's many dogs, stray dogs, and they're very thin and lean. And then you see some, especially if you walk around down Juhu Beach in Bombay, where he gave this example. And some dogs are very healthy and wagging the tail, and then Prabhupada said it's with master and without master. One dog is without, many of the stray dogs are without master, and so with master they're very healthy and well taken care of. So you should feel like that. Anatha without master, or Sanatha with master. So you should be very happy. So like this, he was able to see this different, but the danger side of this type of things, when you don't feel too qualified to chastise other people. That's the other thing. You must be careful also in our correction. It's very great, like recently I was dealing with some disputes, and I would sleep very early hours of the morning, dealing with it, probably through the night. And then I saw like how, one person is thinking that the other person is offensive. But both were. Both sides, they were like offenses. So we may lose sight of that. So So like this, we can learn so much from this, how Prabhupada dealt with situation. He said he did not condemn anyone because of behavior, but he rather worked to improve the situation. And that's a nice point that Harisuri Prabhu makes, that that's how Prabhupada deals with things. And then he prays for the blessings of the followers of Srila Prabhupada, which is also nice. Of Srila Prabhupada, hope that his attempt to increase appreciation of his teaching, of his divine grace. So like that, and then he concludes the introduction by, and I'll read it. Again, referring to the books written by himself, Srila Prabhupada said that if a person reads one verse, one line, one word, his life will be changed. So, first a verse, then a line, then a word. So when if somebody reads about Prabhupada, then his life will be changed. And in general, when people read about devotees, even if they're not devotees, like I had one experience like that of a person. Some people were distributing books in Effingham, myself and another devotee, Rohini Nandan. And we knocked at this door, and this lady reckoned, no, I have a book. Every night I read this book, but it's so nice, it's about a devotee. So I said, what's the devotee's name? Bhaktu Charu Swami. And they were reading it and they were attracted. They don't know much about Krishna consciousness. They said they have like such appreciation. So therefore these books, these writings and these diaries, they have they connect you with Krishna. They can connect you to the spiritual realm. So one should read. I was quite taken aback by that, that it has such powerful effect. Prabhupada's presence has just such powerful effect. Like I remember when I had to bring the deity for Prabhupada in the Phoenix temple. I had to leave Vrindavan and like early, just rushed. I was in Vrindavan and my trip was, for quite some time. But Prabhanu had phoned and said they wanted to get Prabhupada. So I had to get it, and it was coming from Ujjain. It'll land in Bombay, and I must pick it up in Bombay. And when I went to it was such a rush. I had to get a flight and rush and so many things. But as when I went to the devotee who brought Prabhupada to Bombay, I left Prabhupada. I never see him, and then I went looking for Prabhupada, and I was so much in anxiety. I'm thinking, where is Prabhupada? I have to find him because I'm asking the devotees, they don't know. And then finally, it was left. I discovered. Finally, found Prabhupada after so much of struggle. I found Prabhupada in a. It wasn't the BBT, but I think it was like a warehouse, a go down, and there was Prabhupada. And then I thought, I know it's very difficult to transport Prabhupada from India to South Africa because we have to, so many rules, regulations, and airport officials. But I said no. I went I had to sleep the whole night at the airport, just with Prabhupada. And then I said, no, although there were some arrangements made, but I know these things, in India, whatever arrangements made doesn't stand. Only when you're in that scenario, then you know what's happening. So I went to the person, they reckon, I hope it's like 40 kilos. I said, they checked it as 40 kilos. Anyway, that was okay. Then, now you have to pass the custom. The whole, we sealed it. Sealed Prabhupada. Now as I'm going to the custom, the officer there, these police officials, I told him, this is the spiritual, I was talking to him in Hindi. This is the spiritual master of the Hare Krishna movement, is going to South Africa. He immediately took the trolley and is pushing Prabhupada. No security check, Gone. But before that, there was a man who, he said, he was also on the security line. He said, I know Prabhupada for 40 years. I know him. So, they just said, how do you know him? I reckon I'm working here and we should see Prabhupada coming. And I said, no, you must make arrangements also, that we don't have any problems. So everybody was like that. And then I brought him to South Africa. I landed in Johannesburg. And then one African, I didn't have any rands or South African currency. So I know one guy wants to push Prabhupada, but I know he'll want some money. This is South Africa, So the guy is insisting he push Prabhupada, an African gentleman. And I said, okay, but I got no money to give you. He said, okay. He started pushing. So it was a long, from where I landed to take it to customs. And then, finally, when he came to the point, he's demanding money. I told him, but I got no money. He said, all right, just take it, I did some service. Just do like that. Just take it, I did some service. Okay, thank you, go. That's exactly what he said. So how that came in his consciousness. So like that, I can tell you, it's a long story, but it's very detailed. But how Prabhupada, is such a great person that he can influence. His purity can influence people of all races or color, caste. Doesn't really matter. Just has this amazing, because he's a pure devotee, uncontaminated, pure, and he affects the heart. So like this, then the important, we're going to his service. Chapter 1 is speaking about his service. And he's talking about New Delhi and Kurukshetra. And this is, I'll just read the first paragraph and then we can discuss. At 11:30 a.m., I was sitting alone in the tiny temple room, chanting in front of the deities, when Harikesh walked in. Stopping at the open door, he peered at me intensely, and through his thick glasses, "Do you know how to massage?" he said. And then Harisuri responded that he never massaged anybody in his life. So then this devotee told him to go up to the apartment and watch another devotee called Upendra massaging Prabhupada. Because Upendra was leaving the next day, and he was, so he had an opportunity to learn. So from this we can see, Sisi Raghunath ki. So from this we can see that how one can learn from others. This is called on-the-job training. You learn from others. You watch first, and then you do, and then people observe you, and then you get expert at it. Simple. Very simple process. So Harisuri went up and was watching the whole scene. Like Prabhupada was in his gamcha, sitting on a straw mat. His eyes were closed, just like kind of shut. And Upendra, this devotee, was massaging his back with mustard oil. And Bengalis love mustard oil. Even when we were younger, we used to use mustard oil also. Not just for even cooking. Like Bengalis like, cooking in mustard oil. And if you go to Bengal, if you're going to Calcutta, you'll see all those trees, this plantation. The herbs is also very good. And so he offered his obeisances, and he sat to watch. So then he realized that Harisuri is in the room, and Prabhupada acknowledged his presence. And then Upendra, the devotee Upendra, is teaching Harisuri the finer techniques of massage, how to do it, the correct order, the types of oil. And Harikesh was watching. Harisuri Prabhu was watching the whole scene. It's a very, if you watch, like, there is some tapes, you see like how they're massaging his temples, and it's very gently done, and first with his head, and then they use mustard oil. They're using two types of oil. There was another oil they used. I think Harisuri mentions it here. I'll just read. Apparently early this morning, Srila Prabhupada and Harikesh has discussed how to arrange for this morning massage. His Divine Grace had noticed me guarding the door and remembering me from Australia that I might be able to do it. Harikesh apparently had strong reservations about my suitability. He saw me in action as the temple commander in Vrindavan 2 months ago, when I had a somewhat violent exchange with a young Bengali man. It was only resolved through Srila Prabhupada's personal intervention. Despite this, Prabhupada decided to give me a chance. And this is, you can learn from this, that one of the things that we normally encounter, even in devotional practices ourselves, is that we find that others are incompetent. Or we have this understanding that another devotee may be incompetent. But the point is, and that I should do it, the more competent person to do it. Then how the incompetent person going to learn it if he doesn't do it? So he has to do it. Then he will learn it. And you see that, Prabhupada, he excused people of their minor offenses and wanted to give them an opportunity to do devotional service. And this is very important for devotees to learn. And that is why sometimes you'll say, well, he shouldn't do it. He shouldn't do it. he shouldn't do the arti, but how will he learn it? So therefore, when you study Prabhupada very deeply, you'll come to understand his mind. There's many things I can tell you about his. When I was reading his or reading about his activities, there's so much of depth. You have to look very deeply into his mind. Like I'll give you an example. To know the mind of the spiritual master. It's like there was one devotee in Bhagava Prabhu. I think it was Bhagava or Bhagavat Prabhu. Bhagavat Prabhu in Johannesburg. He's not from South Africa. He wasn't a South African devotee, but he should like taking out photographs. And Prabhupada told him to stop it, and then finally told him to go away, to leave. So he went away. He took a walk. So in the afternoon, Prabhupada is looking for this devotee. Where is his devotee? And they said, no, he's gone. So the devotees went looking for him and brought him back. And then the Prabhupada said, where have you been? What happened to you? And he said, Prabhupada, you said me to go away. And Prabhupada said, no, I didn't say that. Well, actually, what he meant, what it means is that you have to know the inner features of the spiritual master, because he didn't want him to go. So one may not know that. Therefore, in Prabhupada's interactions, when you study this or you hear these pastimes, you have to look more deeply into it. I was learning this from Giriraj Maharaj, how he was able to sometimes look into what Prabhupada wanted for the society. Like the example, we're talking about a massage, yeah. And once in Calcutta, Prabhupada was being massaged, and Giriraj Maharaj was there, and he said, I know two things will please you the most. One, you distribute my books, and two, to build a temple in Mayapur. These two things. So you read Prabhupada's mind. And Prabhupada said, yes, you have understood. His face lit up. Yes, you have understood. And those are the two most important things that he wanted. So if you distribute his books, you'll please him. But then, don't get into a very competitive spirit also. But please Prabhupada, because whatever little you do will please him. So these two. So knowing the mind of the spiritual master. So let's go on. I'll read on. I returned to the temple, quite unable to comprehend my good fortune. I am apprehensive but utterly ecstatic at the extraordinary turn of events. As requested, I went to Srila Prabhupada's quarters at 9 p.m. It was the first time I had ever been in Prabhupada's room such a late hour. To see him smiling and relaxed, sitting back, and with his servants to be part of it was a privilege I had never dreamed of. After a few minutes, Srila Prabhupada retired to his bedroom, and Upendra signaled for me to follow. As Upendra stood at the side of the bed, massaging Srila Prabhupada, I looked to the semi-darkness of the room. Srila Prabhupada dozed lightly as Upendra carefully kneaded and squeezed his calves, thighs and feet. After a few minutes, he turned on his side. Upendra worked on his hip. So he goes on to the different parts of the body as he massages it. Very in details he gets into it, but we may not have time to discuss that. But then after some time, 10 minutes, Srila Prabhupada gave a gentle signaling the session was over. So they left the bedroom and Harikesh escorted out of the apartment and locked up for the night. So this was a great experience for him, seeing this Prabhupada being massaged and learning, yeah. Then that concludes that part of his diary. And then in November 27, 1975, he started cleaning Prabhupada's room. And he dusted the furniture, and in a very nice way he was doing it, and he was really relishing it. And I'll just read this part. Prabhupada's bedroom was about the same size as theirs, runs off from the side of it. It didn't take long to change the sheets on the small single bed and scrub the tiny, cramped attached bathroom. So cleanliness is like we have many letters that's posted on our deity department. What is cleanliness is? Next to godliness, so cleanliness is godliness. Cleanliness. So Prabhupada, and this is important, just like somebody may be enthusiastic. Like once some devotees cleaned Prabhupada's quarters, it was so clean. And he was appreciative. But one of the devotees said, Prabhupada, these devotees, they are eager to clean your room, but not anywhere else. Isn't it? If I tell you, come and clean my room, will you clean? Or you may, you may not. But the point is, you may not. You'll only clean his quarters. I'm doing Guru Maharaj's room. You very proudly say that also, isn't it? So remember that, because then Prabhupada said no. And he was talking about the Bombay Juhu land. He said, no, everything belongs to Krishna. So you have to, so cleanliness. So he spoke a little bit about cleanliness, this where he was involved in cleaning. And I don't know, how many of you like cleaning? Oh, okay, I got lots of people who like cleaning. So if you have one service, you can see me. You go, Rangi, I'll call you, Huh? Okay. So yeah. So cleaning, and but we must clean with consciously. Sometimes we're very unconsciously cleaning. Like with Giriraj Maharaj, if you're cleaning, you have to be super clean. It's like, because after a while he'll just he'll point the field, he'll take the dust and he'll show you. When are you going to start cleaning actually? So you have to but the cleansing, when we're cleaning, it cleanses our heart. So, just earlier on I was reading in one of the biographies, probably in the Leelamrita. One day Prabhupada came to his quarters in Los Angeles temple, and he saw that his picture was placed upside down. When you cleaning, you may, but Prabhupada, and it was a simple mistake, but he said that, it indicates there's something wrong in the disciples' mentality. Because, it's really very offensive to do that. So one has to be very conscious. And it affected him. How could somebody a sincere disciple, do that? To put the picture of the spiritual master the other way around. Just like sometimes we may even have when we have our parampara, sometimes we may mix it up. And like if you're a trained devotee, because you're looking from one side, like you must look at the parampara. This is how when you meditate, I mean in general, I can't stipulate how you should meditate, but when you're looking from the bottom, then you'll see the order, and if you're a very trained devotee, if you're a trained devotee, you'll pick it up. Yeah. And there's another time. There was we were talking about massaging. So Prabhupada's mustard oil fell in the floor, and that stain is very difficult to remove. So, so it's interesting. The devotees, they're paying obeisances, putting their head on the oil. So it's not a bad thing, but yeah, I guess his footprints could be maybe it was also in his footprints, and so they took it like that, and they were offering respects to the oil. It's interesting, eh? Like how devotees they would think in different ways, and it's true. You can anything that's connected to the pure devotee, you want to somehow get relish. Or, like I remember once early years when I went to Vrindavan, and it's very difficult to get into Prabhupada's room at that time. When they on his disappearance day, especially at 7:25, somehow I sneaked in. I really don't know how I did it. But when I went inside, it was just such a feeling, Srila Prabhupada. And one lady, one of his disciples, came running to me with a cloth and putting it on my head, or she's chada or something. I was just thinking, wow, it was just such an experience, such an amazing experience. So, we should hanker for these moments where we can get the association of Prabhupada in different ways. And like those devotees with clean, and there's so much to talk about. I can give you so many other examples, but we'll go back to now. Now that he has learned, now he goes back. He's going to do some massaging for Prabhupada. And let's hear his experiences. So I'll just read a little bit. At 11 a.m., I reported to the flat for my first day's duty of the Massua. I walked in just as Srila Prabhupada was giving his blessing to Upendra for success of his new preaching assignment in Fiji. After receiving Prabhupada's garland, Upendra left for the airport. Looking at me, Prabhupada casually tipped his head from side to side and signaled that it was time for his massage. He said, okay, in India, they shake their head like, this is a yes, it's not a no. Like in South Africa, that's a no, Yeah. So yeah, it's in India they just shake their heads, yeah. So you have to know that, yeah. So then Prabhupada went onto the roof with his gamsha and the straw mat, and now no more it was practice, but it was, he had to do it. And then there's a certain level of anxiety, when one is serving the spiritual master. There should be that level of anxiety. And, he started. But he prayed to Krishna to give him sufficient intelligence. What's that verse? Bhagavad Gita? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yema. Yeah. To give me sufficient intelligence, yeah. To those who are devoted, I give the necessary intelligence by which they can come to me. And that coming to Krishna means, serving him. Serving him. So all services belong to the spiritual master. And the disciples are only assistants to that service. assisting the spiritual master. That's how it is. So we should always remember that. And here we're talking about massaging. There is, so many, even like Krishna would massage Balaram. And it's even like for devotees who are involved in deity worship, they also kind of, y'all do massage sometimes? No. Sometimes. You massage the feet. And then that's the extension of that is the spiritual master. It's actually better to do it to the spiritual master. Although, if we are meant to do it for Krishna, but massaging the spiritual master's feet. And when you do like that, you'll get so much mercy. So he prayed, and then he said, and then he gave a description of how he started his services with Srila Prabhupada, how to execute the massage. He offered his obeisances. Srila Prabhupada, he sat cross-legged. Then he took the sandalwood oil. I think the sandalwood oil is for the head. It's cooling, right? The sandalwood oil is cooling, yeah. And then he poured a few drops in the palm of his hand, and then he began to massage Prabhupada's head, the sandalwood oil. And and then as he was doing it, because like he's doing it for the first time now, he's thinking now it's like for 1 minute or something, 1 or 2 minutes it's going to be, or it's going to be like for 10 minutes what he saw. But it wasn't like that. So he started massaging, and then in his mind, it's like a protest coming up. And he's trying to fight to transcend, because he's thinking now, like, how long I'm going to do this? And he says, by concentrating on trying to please Srila Prabhupada, I was able to keep the motion of my hands without interruption. Thankfully, the pain soon disappeared and my hands loosened, because his hand was paining now because he was doing it. Generally when you're doing something for the first time, there's like a level of enthusiasm. But as you're going along, it's that enthusiasm is no more. So you have to now transcend that and come back to that point of enthusiasm. And then he goes on to explain. He gives in detail as he he continued. It was, but the point he was saying, he did it with great care, very great care, although it was painful. Then after 15 minutes, then he moved Prabhupada around. Now it's gone 15 minutes. And then he had to switch to the mustard oil, because now the back, the heat, you need mustard oil. So he switched to the mustard oil. And then he started continuing massaging his chest, stomach, like that. And he went on for a while. And he gives, the different parts of the body as he massaged it. And I won't get into detail. But it was such a relishable experience. And I'll read this paragraph, which is so interesting. I carefully massaged his thighs and ankles and finished with his feet, which I made a special effort to massage as nicely as possible, rubbing my thumbs up and down his high arches and pressing the joints in the ball of each feet. I ended up pulling each individual toe, giving a slight squeeze to the soft fleshy end portion. This made my thumb and forefinger snap together as they came up over the tips of his toes. Now I have some practical understanding of the meaning of lotus feet, as Prabhupada's feet are surprisingly soft and delicate and just like the petals of a flower. It's a very beautiful description. Sometimes when we touch Prabhupada's feet, just quickly, it's like a very mechanical thing. But it's a gentle act. It's very gentle. Even when you're doing the artis, it's a very gentle procedure. It's not, like you pay some Brahmins to do arti, They rush and then they just, it's not like that. It's a very gentle act. It's a very gentle act. When you go to Vrindavan in the month of Kartik, you'll see Lokanath Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. When they're doing the arti, it's just a sight on its own. They love it. They love doing it. They can do it every day without fail. Just have this love to do the arti. And you find, even for devotees, like even Segi Prabhu, start doing the arti, is like, how do you feel, Segi Prabhu? Very good. It's like such a feeling, I like all devotees to do arti, for Prabhupada. It's a good feeling. And, there was one devotee in Phoenix. I think his name is Brahmananda. Was it Brahmananda? There's a Brahmananda there from Veralam. Yeah, I think his name is Brahmananda from Veralam. He's a healthy guy, security, Brahmananda. So he was involved in some security fencing and things like that. Yeah. And he told me that when he came to the temple, the devotees are talking, this, that, he's waiting when these people are going to stop, Like Ajay was giving the example yesterday, the other, yeah. We were just waiting for the prasadam. And then he wanted to go away, and then he went to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was speaking to him. And he was communicating with him. It was interesting. And he genuinely, really, all the things that they were speaking about, he was doing. And, but then, and then I wrote it in an offering also to Prabhupada once, yeah. And how he is saying Prabhupada told him to stay. That's the message you keep getting. Stay, stay, stay. And he stayed. He gave up, all his bad habits and became a devotee and took initiation. So it's very interesting, to communicate with Prabhupada. You can speak to him. You can go to him, and if you have challenges and difficulties, he will help you. So in so many cases, I took devotees to Prabhupada's room, and they changed their lives, and they found that Prabhupada had helped them. But I just thought of two things. There's two more points that I wanted to discuss before we conclude. Is one that I like to read about what Shruti Kirti said when he was massaging Prabhupada. When Shruti Kirti was serving Prabhupada as personal servant, he often felt embarrassed by the tremendous demonstration of love which the devotees offered to Prabhupada, whereas Shruti Kirti himself felt a lack of love. Then, especially in arrival scenes at the airport, dozens of devotees would be dancing around, chanting, crying, and falling down on the ground. It was an amazing sight of love for Srila Prabhupada. One of these occasions, while accompanying Srila Prabhupada, Shruti Kirti began to feel very sorry for himself. He thought that all these devotees were dancing and chanting, and here he was walking beside Srila Prabhupada. But he had no feeling, no real love. This began to disturb his mind. So one day, during the massage, Shruti Kirti expressed it to Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, all these devotees have such love for you. It makes me feel so bad. I have none of this love. When I'm with you, I can see everyone dancing and chanting and crying. But I have so much association, and yet I don't feel that it's there. He was hoping that Prabhupada would say something or do something. But Prabhupada said nothing. He went on massaging and finished. Then Prabhupada went and bathed. And after putting on his tilak and chanting his Gayatri, Prabhupada called Shrutikirti into the room. So, do you like serving me? Said Prabhupada. Oh yes, Prabhupada, said Shrutikirti. I like serving you very much. Then Prabhupada said, that is love. Everyone can do so many things, singing, dancing, jumping up and down. But you are actually doing something. Isn't this love? It's an interesting way of looking at it. And then he said, I guess so, Srila Prabhupada. So you just do your service, said Srila Prabhupada. That is all that is necessary. That is what I love. That is what I love, means to do service. So you have to do service. It's not like, I love you, I love you, I love you, but you do nothing. Like imagine you say a girl, I love you, you're not giving her flowers, you're not giving anything. Where's the question of love? So there must be some activity. So bhakti or devotional service is some activity. So this is important to note. That just do a little service for Prabhupada. The other one will bank it to time is up. But we'll just take some questions or comments. If anybody have any questions or they would like to comment. Anybody would like to say anything? Thank you for listening.
I'll go first. Addition, the oil, the second oil will be sesame. Mustard plus sesame.
It says must, okay.
Plus sesame as well. Then also in addition to, let's go for how you're saying it, such as breaking it to him gently, how you chastise somebody. You mentioned that you should be very gentle. Okay, just going back recent times in our society here, there was an aspirant who joined us, seeking solace. He suddenly disappeared overnight. And he used to speak to me, speak his heart out. And he used to say he was given the feeling that he's unwanted. And by the way, his family has burnt his Japamala as well as all the literature. So we got to be careful how we speak to people.
Yeah. You see, in an institution, therefore you need everybody has a role to play. Like the older people become, they become the father figure, the loving person. So that is required. And sometimes we may have younger people who may be managing the institution, but they may not have that attributes, that lovingness. So, or, people sometimes are cold also. So there, different types of people there are. So, ideally, we will require somebody who's very gentle, especially in a situation like that. And remember, a lot of people come here, I meet people from different walks of life here. I'm walking all the time around here, and I keep walking around. I'm meeting all types of people. And people are coming, with different material problems also. So in an institution, we may not be able, even as leaders, and it's not really a total fault of the leader, it's also, But the person may be coming with a high level of karma and lots of, baggages. So he may undergo a lot of pain and in all cases, Prabhupada also looked at his institution. So you can't just now house people who have a lot of material problems and may bring disrepute to the institution also. I'll give you one example of how, there was a person who was imitating another devotee, Achyutananda, and he was collecting, monies. So, finally they found out and he was caught. And when he was a thief, so when he was caught, then they brought him to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, people have this idea that, he was compassionate in every situation. But compassion also means applying certain rules that may be painful to the person. That's also compassion. So they brought this person, the police brought this person, so he said, I surrender to you. So a sadhu, when you surrender to a sadhu, the sadhu has to accept. Now you can't take him away. You can't lock him up because he surrendered to me. And in India, that's like, they understand that point. So he surrendered, he stayed. After a few days, he started doing something, stealing and taking some things and all. So Prabhupada said, well, call the police and let him go. So, that's also compassion. So you have to weigh it out. Sometimes people have also their own karma they have to deal with. The level of surrender may be low. So it's not a place where you can just house anybody. Because Giriraj Maharaj was the president in India, and at a time there were a lot of ladies joining. He was naive, and he was at that point in time, and all were putting white saris. They don't have husbands. So they were joining. They can get up early. Indian people can get up early. They're used to it. They know they have to get up early. And in India, they can get up early. They got a free place to stay. They're getting accommodation. Then Prabhupada noticed it and he said, oh, if you do this, the whole of Bombay will join you. We can't. This is not what we meant to do. And this movement is for serious people. Especially if somebody wants to live in an institution, then we have to, really look at it. If he's got certain challenges, we have to help him through it before he even comes and lives here. But in a case like that you're referring to, maybe we may have still faltered in some ways. Maybe we didn't give the necessary affection. We didn't do this, we didn't do that. But also remember, also that person's karma is also there. There's two sides to look at. That's the way I look at it. What do you think, Sayyid? Yeah, we only look at it from
two
there.
sides, yeah.
Compassion can be in different ways, It's not like I'm still compassionate to him, But I have to make him go through this because this is the way he'll learn it, But sometimes, we don't want people, when, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was, also it should be very effective if people have joined and they leave, and then they leave. He was very disturbed, in gallons of blood, yeah. So these are things that we have to be cognizant of. I think it's our monthly Sankirtan festival today, right? So any other comments, or we'll stop here? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.